Hi guys, it's Master Coach Tony Morgan, and today's video is on the Ideal Independent 24, and today we're going to be talking about the L1 code and what would cause that. So L1 is low pressure. So I got with me today Tom. He's going to ask me questions regarding this particular fault, and let's see what we find out. So as I said, it'll display on there that code. So Tom, what do you think would cause, or if you've got any questions for me to ask, what was that?
Yeah, Tony, you got your low pressure fault on this particular boiler. Where is the filling loop on underneath this particular boiler here, is it?
Yeah. There's two types of filling which you can have: an external one or an internal one.
Does it?
On this particular boiler, we can't really show the internal filling loop, but it would be here at the front. So you just have like a lever, a blue lever,
okay, and
you turn it. So that's how you fill it up. But what we'll look back here is you've got like the pressure sensor.
Pressure sensor.
Yeah.
So what is the pressure sensor on this one?
So there it is there, just there at the back of the pump.
Okay.
That's it. They call it like, it's got a funny name called a transducer. Something named like that. But that's what it's, a pressure sensor.
So what can go wrong with that?
Well, it can go faulty by just breaking down, or inside, if you look, we'll have to just take that out of the way, and we'll take this pump connection off. It'll come off, being a bit stiff. I'll get it now, 1 minute. No, won't we? What can happen is it can get blocked basically. So it goes into here, that's the pin that holds it in the clip. So when you take it out, make sure you get something and push down inside it, because it might be blocked and then it's not sensing the pressure. So that could be faulty, or it could be blocked, as I said there, and that'll give you that L1 code. Okay, so any more questions?
Yeah, Tony, what else could cause this problem on the boiler itself with low pressure?
Well, what I'd be looking at is, if that was okay, first thing I'd speak to the customer and ask the customer, has it happened before? Now, I made a video about the importance of listening to the customer, because what they tell you is part of the problem if you read it properly, the information. So if a customer said to me, well, yeah, it happens every week or every 2 weeks, that I top it up and then it runs, and then that one to come back on, means yeah, I've got a leak. Well, it's definitely losing pressure through the system. So then what I'll be looking at is the expansion vessel, because it might be over pressurizing because there's no air inside the vessel. So that's what I'm going to be looking at. So with that information from the customer, that's going to have a red flag. Let's look at this. So that's what you would do, and then hopefully that will solve the problem. Now, for draining the boiler, sometimes I would use a PRV, but on these it's pretty difficult to do.
It is. So
you got a drain point which is underneath the boiler. So that's it there. Just get a screwdriver, undo that. You would isolate obviously the floor and turn, depending where the boiler is. If it's downstairs, then isolate. If it's upstairs, you don't have to bother. Get a bucket and then let that out, and then pump up the expansion vessel. So yeah, I think that'd be it really on the L1. So this is very handy for new people not conversant with this type of boiler, or basically just gotten involved with boiler repair. So it's a little handy tip for you guys to watch out for. Right, so what would you say now?
Just actually looking, Tony, at the setup of these ideal boilers, that compared to some of the other boilers, they don't really have too much technology, like in the way of like sensors and harnesses. There's really not a lot to these boilers, from what I see.
Well, you're right, there's not as many components, but the thing about this particular boiler, which I don't really like working on them, is if you get particular problems, like, see this expansion vessel pipe?
Yeah.
Now, oh, actually, you said something quite good, because going back to the L1, losing pressure, the other thing what could be not be, well, we might do the expansion vessel and find it's actually good, there's air in it, but we could have a blocked pipe, which can give us the same problem, that it's over expanding because this pipe is blocked. Yeah. So here's a great one why I don't like this boiler. That pipe's blocked, and it's blocked there. Now, there's no way you're going to get in there to clear. So if it was blocked on that bend,
pump's coming out, isn't it?
Yep, you're going to have to, well, you can take the pump head off, which isn't a problem. However, behind it's set back further, so you can't get in, you can't take the sides off in this boiler. So you'd have to take the pump body out. And that means you'd have to undo the connections underneath the boiler, total drain down, primary drain down, and the cold water inlet. Because part of the pump's into here, which part of that is into that manifold, which is the cold water inlet. So you got to turn it off. So it's quite an extensive job then to get that out, all because that pipe's blocked. So, however, it looks nice and easy, but it's not. It's quite comprehensive kind of boiler repair exercise.
So what would you use, Tony, to clear any blockage in that pipe?
As I said, you'd have to physically take it out, and then once you physically can see it, you can just get a little screwdriver and clean it out.
Okay.
Or the pipe itself could be blocked just there, but you can see how difficult it is to get that. You haven't got much room, so it's very tight, and that's, as I said, one of the things I don't like about these particular boilers. Right, so any more questions before we finish?
Yeah, Tony, I got another one. You know how he says about the pressure, when you're losing pressure in the boiler, what symptoms it can be? What about going the other way? What about if the pressure increases?
Right, okay, when the pressure's going up, well, obviously you're going to check your gauge. The customer might be alerted that the pressure's gone up, or you might be alerted to that. Now the pressure, it can go up in basically two ways really. You've got to kind of sort of weigh things up. So you've got like when the boiler's on, working, and you got when the boiler's off and not working. So you got to determine what's going on. So again, the art of listening to the customer is basically going to give you the clues of what's going on. So if that was me, I'd say, right, they're telling me that the pressure's gone right up. So I'm saying, like, when does it happen? Is it constant all the time? They say, yeah. And then I'm going to say, is it when your heating's on, or is it off? So if they say, well, I've not had the heating on for a few weeks because it's warm, but all of a sudden the pressure went up, you know, not been using it, just gone up. So let me ask you that question. What would you think then? So
I would think then if the heating wasn't on, it can't really have nothing to do with the expansion vessel. It must be the cold water inlet, or it's maybe passing.
That's right, yeah. So what the areas what you're going to be looking at then, what's going to cause that?
I'll be looking at if it's got a, let's say, whether it's an internal or external filling loop. I'll be looking to see whether if it's external, maybe the check valve's passing and it's not holding no more, or else if it's one of the internal ones, it might just be that when the lever, when you close it, it's not actually 100% closing, it's still allowing a wee bit of water to pass through.
Yeah, well that's it, so you can look at that. So what I would do then, I'd drain the boiler, get it down to 1, and then you're going to have to kind of monitor it. So give it maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, and see if the pressure starts creeping back up. So if it creeps back up after 20 minutes, half an hour, then you also can listen as well, because sometimes if it is past, you can actually hear the water hissing slightly. So you could have the internal or external filling loop letting water into the system and basically making that go up. Now, say like it's going to be easy if, say like you've got like an external filling loop, then you can disconnect it all together so it's not connected, you know, it cannot be that, and it still then continues to pass. I mean, the pressure goes up after half an hour. Then the only other way is going to be the hot water heat exchanger.
You got a hole in it.
Yeah, and then that's going to be causing that problem. So by asking a customer these questions first gives you the A or B option before, you know, you could go down the wrong road. So that's basically when the pressure increases. Now, the other side, B, you say, you know, when does it happen? Does it happen when you put the heating on? Oh yeah, it all happens when the hot water's fine, but it all happens when you put the heating on. Again, okay, red flag. So it's over expanding. So again, you just turn it on, monitor it. If it starts creeping up after 5 minutes, you know, then it's your expansion vessel. Obviously, you're going to check your pressure in your expansion vessel here like this. Check that. If it's flat, then obviously it's that. And if it's not, you think, oh, there's nothing wrong with that. Then, where do you think you're going to look then?
Blockage in your pipe.
That's it. So, there you go. So, these are the things we look out for. Okay, so we've covered quite a bit on pressure. That's the F1 code, and the L1 code should say, but also we've thrown in there about when the pressure goes up, which is handy to know and where to look for. Listen to the customer, ask the questions, and then that will give you the answers if you've got your awareness about you. Right, you got another question you'd like to ask?
Yeah, Tony, you got me a wee bit confused here. Just before, I understand the part when like the pressure increases, when the heating's been on, it's either the vessel that's lost its charge. Failing that, it's going to be the expansion pipe that's got a blockage in it.
Yeah.
But previously, when you says about the low water pressure, you also says that there could be a blockage in that expansion pipe. Why is this?
Because over time, if this pipe is blocked, then it's going to cause the boiler, well, the system to over-pressurize and then open the PRV. And then the PRV will let water out. So when the system cools and contracts, then the pressure is going to go down. The pressure on a gauge will be down and customer will see it. In fact, then the pressure sensor will detect it and then that code will come on. So that's why it's a knock-on effect on the whole thing.
Okay.
Does that make it clear?
Yeah.
Go on, so what were you saying then?
Yeah, I'm like, you know, by saying that, Tony, I think it would be very easy to misdiagnose. If somebody's like got a low pressure issue with the boiler, I mean, I'd never thought about the expansion pipe being blocked before.
Right.
So that to me was like something new, which I've now learned today. But let's just say somebody never knew nothing. They're looking for problems underneath the boiler or else the radiators, and they may never find the actual problem because they were in lack of knowledge.
Correct. What I've seen in a few instances that when people losing pressure, the first thing they go and do is go and change a PRV. That's it. That's it. That's their basically fault finding. Change that PRV. Oh love, that's fixed. That's your problem, and walk off. And it carries on doing it. And like I said, they misdiagnosed. Didn't really understand about the operation. Learning these tips, what you've learnt today, and that's what they do. So yeah, spot on. You've got another question you'd like to ask?
Yeah, Tony, I'm sorry for all these questions, but
it's a great stuff. Don't worry.
Another one is, let's just say you you've diagnosed what you think is the problem with the low pressure, and you went and you looked at the expansion pipe and it's got a blockage. Does that mean that you would just leave it at that, or would you still look at maybe changing the PRV as well? Is that something that you would do?
Well, it depends really, because depending on how long this has been going on for, if it's been going on a long period of time, then the PRV might not reset. It might not, just keep dribbling. In that case, then you're going to have to change your PRV. Now, obviously, as I said, it can reset and then you can use it. It's not a problem. So it's a kind of 50-50. You have to play it by ear, do your job, test it, or you can just say, you know what, I'm going to change his PRV and make a decision, and that's up to you. If you got one in your van, then fine, you can just put one on. I carry these type of things in my van. But yeah, so it's up to you to make that call.
Okay.
The other thing what would lose pressure is a good example to show is basically, we spoke about the cartridge before. So you can lose pressure through leaking on the system, and one of the big areas is this cartridge leaking. Now you can see rust. This is from basically the sump leaking, but it gives you the same result, water being here. So water will drip down here. So what you can do, you can take this head off. Let's see if we can pull it off. There. Now what you would do, you'd see water coming out that pin basically. So that's where you're going to lose pressure. So if it's a repeated thing, by talk to the customer. So you can observe this. So what you can do, guys, take this off and just check it, see if any water's there. If it's nice and dry like this, then you know you're not losing no water there. And if it's all discoloured inside there, you know this is also an area you're going to have to change that cartridge.
Okay.
We got another question regarding this cartridge.
Yeah, Tony, like the cartridge on the Ideal, I know through the past that when I went and changed one myself, and when I got the pack, there was another cartridge behind it. What's the purpose of the other cartridge?
Well, there's, like you said, there's another cartridge at the back. I think it's to do with the heating side. I've never changed it myself, I've just changed the front. So I've never really got involved in it. All the ones I've done, I just changed the front. So I think if you want to get really involved, but it could be complicated, it might not work, I won't go there. So change the cartridge. If it works, leave it at that. One more thing about this cartridge, what I'd say, as I said, I don't really get involved with the back. Now to do that, you'd have to take the whole block out really. You'd have to undo the flow and return, this pipe which is coming in on the flow, and then this is the hot water. Undo them, this connection, that connection, take the whole thing out, and then at the back there's a nut which obviously you can only access it from there. That's why I wouldn't get involved in doing that. You want to say something about the PRV? You said something then?
Yeah, Tony, I think if you got a faulty PRV, by the looks of this position on this one here, it looks like it's quite a big job because it's right behind the pump and the pressure switch.
Well, that's correct. This is another ideal feature. Ideal feature. But basically, it's not an ideal feature because it's very difficult. And yet, you have to take this out the way. Take this off. You can try and get a tool from this angle and then grip the head to undo it, because I just undo it from the top.
Yeah.
You don't want to get involved trying to take that back nut out there.
The black part of the head there.
Yeah, just grip that and screw it out.
Okay.
But it's still not the easiest. So we're going to conclude this section on this L1 losing pressure, and talking about the pressure increasing. So that's going to be on this video on this boiler. Hopefully you enjoyed that and learned about these issues what we discussed. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.